What a great day, what a great time to be here. I'm humbled by this moment, by this event. Ed is a more accomplished and longer tenured broadcaster than I am, so he really could have did this himself, but he thought enough of me to do it, and I'm very gracious for the opportunity. Building Your Brand 101, a playbook for student athletes on money, media, and mental health by none other than Ed Robinson. Let's get right into it.
Let's go for it, Rahshaun.
Similar upbringings, you and I. Tell the people where you're from and how you kind of were brought up.
Okay, Rahshaun. So I was born in the great town of Watts. People get Watts mixed up with Compton, but I grew up in the town of Watts. I grew up with 7 sisters and 1 brother. I was actually born a twin, but my twin brother passed away when we were 2 years old. So I grew up in a household with a lot of women. My mother has been a great example for us. We grew up poor. We grew up with challenges and issues, just like any other family. I went to 102nd Street Elementary School, which is now Florence Griffith Jr. So I went to school with Flojo. Flojo was a year younger than me. Then I went to Markham Junior High School at the time. I wanted to go to be a Bulldog. I don't know if there's any Bulldogs around. L.A. Jordan, but Mama moved us to, I see a couple of them in the audience here, but Mama moved us to Compton, where I went to Compton High School. So that was my trajectory. I've been married. My wife, the bride of my youth, Yvonne. Yvonne and I have been married 41 years this year. I have 4 children. I have 1 son, 3 daughters. No grandchildren yet. Still waiting for my grandchildren. Worked for Southern California Edison for 33 years, as I mentioned. Larry was one of those guys that undergirded me during that time. And just I'm blessed. I'm blessed and struggled just like anyone else at one time at 19. Contemplated suicide, and this was a seminal moment for me where my friend Tommy Tobert introduced me to a man named Christ, and after that, the rest is history.
That's very, very powerful. We'll get into that in just a sec. Watts, not South LA, not Green Meadows, not any other little fancy names that want to come up with it now. Sports, obviously a big part in your upbringing. What role does sports play in your life?
Sports played a big role in my life because I grew up, so I did something, Rahshaun, I don't even know if you know, that was totally different than most kids of my age. I did amateur boxing. I know when you look at my face, it looks like I've been hit in the face with a bat. But I did amateur boxing. All of my cousins are doing basketball, football. I tried those things, but the thing that worked for me was amateur boxing. I did that from 13 to 16. My goal was to make the Olympic boxing team. I used to work out at Hoover Street Gym, 78th and Hoover. Coach Willie Barnes became like a surrogate dad to me. He would pick me up. And I don't know if any of your viewers or the viewers know about the Olympic Auditorium, 18th and Grand. That's before your time. But I spent a lot of time at 18th and Grand watching the boxing. So Ken Norton, Mondo Ramos, those are some of the champions that I actually grew up with. So sports, just watching it, and I saw the unity of one thing for me, Rahshaun, sports is one of those unique things that can bring people together. So if you look at sports even right now, you see Asians, Latinos, blacks, whites, you see all genders, et cetera, people coming together. They may not like each other after the game or before the game, but sports just has a way of bringing people together.
Building Your Brand 101, a playbook for student athletes on money, media, and mental health. Why this book?
Well, actually, it's interesting, Rahshaun. I've always wanted to write a book, but I didn't think I had the time or the skill sets to do it. So there's a kid by the name of Jalen Woods. So Jalen Woods, his family, his mom, Michelle and Keon, they used to attend the church that I used to pastor in Compton. So he was playing football for St. John Bosco, as you know, the #1 football school in the country. So Jalen would kill you on the football field, but when it came to communication skills, verbosity, and just talking with folks, he wasn't comfortable with that. So his mom said, hey, Jalen is enamored with your communication skills. Would you be willing to work with him? So we sat down and we talked. I have to give credit where credit is due. My son, Anthony, actually came up with the idea of a playbook. He said, Dad, athletes understand playbooks. He played football at the University of Laverne. So I just started working with Jalen, and we started putting these 7 plays together. We took football-related plays, and we converted them into media. So for instance, as you know, a fumble, you drop the ball. So I call you Ricky instead of Rahshaun. So I taught him how to make a bridge to go back to correct that. Or, you know, in football, there's an audible where the quarterback changes the play. You go and you think that they're going to talk to you about something else, and that's taught him how to pivot with his 3 core messages. So it actually started from there. And then what happened, Rahshaun, after we started doing that, Jalen was elected by the Trinity League, as you know, modern day, Orange Lutheran.
Toughest league in America.
Got all of those leagues to represent Media Day. So his parents said that people were coming and saying, how did Jalen, who went from 0 words to being very affable and friendly doing so, they mentioned it, how I trained. So they asked me if I had a book or anything. Folks at St. John Law School, and I didn't have anything. And so that started, and then I started searching as it relates to mental wellness. And I looked at a lot of Division I schools, and I saw that there was nothing being offered on that level. As a matter of fact, the young lady, I can't remember her name, but she was the captain of the soccer team for the 2020 Stanford NCAA championship team, committed suicide. So I started looking at it. I was alarmed by the alarming rate. And my daughter Danielle is a psychiatrist, so we started working together and we put that together. And if you know Simone Biles, Naomi Osaka, and others, they started talking about their mental wellness. So that came, and then to show you how God works very fortuitously, He just dropped Neil in my lap, name, image, and likeness. So if you're not familiar with that, it was NCAA, National Collegiate Athletic Association, passed I think in June of 2021, which primarily says that athletes can now be paid for their image. So Larry Hudson, who did the introduction when he was the captain of the basketball team at Cal State Long Beach back in the day, Larry couldn't get paid unless he got paid under the table. But now with name, image, and likeness, they can. So I took all of those things, started with Jalen. How do you engage the media effectively? So I used to host a cable program, as you know, in Compton for 19 years, and did media spokesperson for Southern California.
Award-winning cable program. I'm not going to listen to that. Go ahead.
Award-winning. All of those skill sets. How do you allow student athletes to engage with the media? Because student athletes are unique. Unlike a general student athlete, he or she, they have a lot of demands on them. And depending on the level that you are, then you get thrust into this thing called the media. So how do you effectively engage with that? And at the same time, athletes are taught to push through the pain, but they're not taught to push through the mental aspect of it. How do you manage that? And then the last one, with the name, image, and likeness, how do you handle finances? Larry, I gotta give credit. Larry was the one that gave me the idea. Doc calls me Doc. I don't know why he calls me Doc. I have no doctor or anything. But Larry was the one that said, hey, Doc, you should put something on credit card use. So we did a whole thing on financial, just basic finances. But then how not to get in trouble with credit cards. So long way of saying, but that's the genesis of the story.
So an accumulation of things over time, over years, over decades, all kind of come into fruition right here in this book. And the thing that I like about it is all those things that you just said are true, of course, right? You're looking at student athletes today and how the landscape has changed tremendously, right? And a playbook to help them as they try to navigate today's waters. But this is something that can be applicable to any and everybody. You talk in this book about financial literacy, and that's something that we have an issue with in our community, right? And I think as a whole, there's so many things that can be done in terms of financial literacy, in terms of it being inside the high schools as mandatory courses, in colleges perhaps as mandatory courses, things that we just don't know, that we just don't understand. So like like what you wrote in the book, your first credit card, kind of maxed that thing out. Your boy kind of did the same thing, right? I had to explain to my mom, yeah, it's not working. It's not working. So you touch on a lot of different things in this book, but the identity of a student athlete, and you mentioned that sometimes as a student athlete you think you're just an athlete, or that's all you have to offer, and you touch on that in this book in terms of there's so much more out there for you than just being just that athlete. Why is that so important for you to stress and emphasize and get across?
I think it's very important for me, Rahshaun, because I've been around a lot of student athletes. And you know, you think about it, student athletes, a lot of them, they start playing sports maybe 4 or 5 years old. They make it to the collegiate level, so now they're 21, 22. So they've been doing it for 16, 17, 18 years. And they don't make it to the league, because as you know, statistically speaking, less than 2% of athletes make it to the next level, to the pro level. So I have found that over the years that there are those students that I've spoke with that they fall into 3 categories on the identity thing. One, they become stuck. All I know is that I am a basketball player. I didn't get picked up by the Lakers, the Clippers, or whoever. So thusly, my identity is basketball. I can't tell you the number of big guys and small and everybody in between that I talk to that feel that way. Then there's those that are in limbo. They still have the skill sets, so I'm going to go to the D League or the G League to try to develop my skills and go from there. And then those that I call, they are the transformative ones. They are the ones, Rahshaun, who they maximize I know I keep picking on it, but Larry would be a good example, Larry Hudson. They maximize their time in college, they leverage, got a degree, and now they are leading in their own areas. Because to me, sports, it teaches you teamwork, initiative, humility, how to bring folks together. So when I run across those individuals, that's why I wanted to really talk about identity. And Mike Lacey, I want to give Mike Lacey. Mike Lacey is the athletic director at Texas Tech University. So he was helping me with my research, and that's one of the things that he told me. If you can put something together that talks about that sports is not your identity, how do you move from there?
I think that translates to life also,
yes,
right? And no matter what your job is, right? It's you hear the saying more and more, it's what I do, it's not who I am, right? But sometimes we get caught up in this, myself included, right? If the phone isn't ringing, if those gigs aren't coming, if those calls aren't coming, right? Being in the sports broadcasting world, sometimes you get kind of stuck on that, right? So it's like, all right, if no one's hearing me or seeing me on their televisions, what do I have to offer? And so, and I think, and it can go for being a chef, it can go for being an accountant, it could go for a myriad of other things. And I think you kind of touch on that here in this book. Chase Griffin is an athlete at UCLA. Some of you may have heard of him, may not. He was the backup quarterback there last year, but he is tremendous in terms of navigating. He was just named the NIL Athlete of the Year by all the athletes in America. He was named. This young man has a portfolio. He's entering his master's program at UCLA. Like, he's really taking advantage of a whole student part, in addition to being, being a member on one of the top football teams in the country. And so that's a young man who certainly is embodying some of the things that you have here in this book, Ed.
And Rahshaun, can I just jump in real quick, because you're talking about the name. I just want to really make it real plain and folks know what we're talking about. So back in the days, athletes were precluded from getting any kind of money. So now if I'm at Subway, or if I'm at Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, or I'm with Toyota, whatever, and we use your name, image, and likeness, you can get paid.
Yeah.
And in the past, they would have to go through the athletic departments, but now we can come directly to Rahshaun and say, hey, man, if you show up 5 times a year, we will give you whatever, $100,000. And there are kids that are making millions of dollars, and they have not even made it to the pro levels. Well, how do they manage that?
So you mentioned that Angel Reese, you've all seen her on your televisions these last couple of days. She's a young lady that plays at LSU. They just won a national championship in women's basketball. She's somewhere in the $1 million range right now in terms of her name, image, and likeness deals. And what you're seeing now with some of these middle tier players, maybe not the high draft picks, in various sports, not just women's basketball, but in football, in basketball, in baseball, there's more money for them to stay in school than to enter the draft and maybe be a late round draft pick or not get drafted at all because of what NIL has done now. And as you mentioned, only so many go. The WNBA is the toughest league in the world to make. You put it in your book, right? I think 0.8% of collegiate athletes, women basketball players, make it to the WNBA. And so it's, what else do you have? What else can you do? What else can you fall back on? And so I think that's something great that you illustrate tremendously here in the book. Let's talk about this NIL for a second. Let's expand into that a little bit more. You touched on it. The NCAA basically came out, they just rolled out the balls and said, look, you want it, have at it. There really isn't a lot of not a lot of rules in terms of this, right? And so it kind of became Armageddon when it first came out. And they're still trying to figure out how they can kind of put a bow on this thing and make it universal for everybody to have like the same playbook, same rules to follow. Because you got different states have different rules, different conferences have different rules, different schools have different rules. But one thing about it is because there was no infrastructure, all these kids are making money and they don't know what to do with this money. And so you get into that aspect in terms of, okay, you're getting all this money as an independent contractor. You see this check come in for, $1,000 or what have you. Oh, this is all my money. But you're a 1099. And if you're a 1099, Uncle Sam's not taking taxes. Oh, but he don't get his. You better believe it, right? You talk about that here.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. So the 1099 self-employment employee, and people don't think about that, or the tax aspect of it. So you're 18, 19 years old, and you're making $500,000. You're making $300,000. And again, you think that it's all in your pocket. And then Uncle Sam comes knocking on your door and say, hey, by the way, Ed, you owe us $50,000. $50,000. And then I don't pay it, and then it accrues, accumulates, and so forth. So that's what we're just trying to do, just trying to give them a fundamental aspect. Because I like what you said. There were really no guardrails around NIL. Still is. People can do whatever they want to. You got a group of collectives, used to be called sponsors. So the collectives say, I don't need to deal with SC. I don't need to deal with UCL. I don't need to deal with Cal State Dominguez Hills, Long Beach. I can go directly to the person. And that throws off. I'll give you one anecdotal story. So I'm not going to say the school, but I was talking to one of the leaders in the athletic department, and he told me, yeah, I got a kid that pulled up, this is last year, a 2022 Corvette, plays basketball. How do I tell this guy to go to school? How do I tell him to stay disciplined? How do I have no control over that because of NIL. So these kids are making money hands over fist, and no one's talking about it.
I mean, that's a real thing, right? When Larry, if you were driving around Long Beach, the people would ask you, they would question you, right? Reggie Bush, he was driving around in a nice car. He got questioned, USC got hammered, right? Now, you just assume with these NIL deals that, these kids have money. But another part of that is it was initially supposed to be for student athletes on campus to, have a couple extra bucks, maybe go on a date, maybe be able to buy a plane ticket to go home, buy pizza, what have you. But what it's become with these collectives that you just mentioned is a bargaining chip, right? It's become something for prospective student athletes. So it's become a bidding war, right? There's a young man right here in Downey High School. He was, he reportedly got $8 million over 4 years to go to the University of Tennessee, right? And so it's become more about, I want to go to the school. It's like, well, how much is in the bag? Right? And now you're a 17-year-old, you're a millionaire, you go on the campus, and these coaches are like, okay, how do I police this?
Right. The other part of it too is that I was telling the same coach, I said, if a person is getting a NIL, name, image, and likeness deal, you're the quarterback on the team, right? I get no love. I'm an old lineman, I'm an offensive lineman, I'm blocking for you. Nobody's giving me anything. I said, I think there are some unintended consequences. Translated, I might not block for you on the next deal. That's a real thing. I'm not. I mean, I got cousin Melvin who was offensive lineman, but collegiate level. I just may not block. Why? So you look at that. But let me just one thing I want to say. I really want to give honor and credit to Ed O'Bannon guy. They were the ones that they started this thing way back like in the 90s or so. That hey, we have amateur status, but we're not getting anything, and all of that. So I just want to say to the O'Bannon family, kudos to you all for really making this happen to push this thing to fruition. That now these kids can I'm talking about all genders, can now be paid.
So with the Ed O'Bannon thing, there was a college basketball video game that was out, and it had every school, UCLA, USC, and all the schools, right? And it had all the players on there. But it just didn't have the players' names. So, but number 31 for UCLA was the best player on the team. His image was just like Ed O'Bannon's, this, that, and the other. And he's playing the game one day, and he's like, hold up, this is me. Yeah. And I'm not getting a dime from this. Yeah, and they're making millions. And so Ed O'Bannon went to the courts and he fought this, and that's how this thing, it took years and years and years, but that's how this thing kind of really came to fruition. So much so that EA Sports, the manufacturer of the game, they had to pull the games from the shelves, and now they're trying to figure out how to come back with it and properly be able to compensate these young men, this, that, or what have you. But you would have players from different colleges, they would have their height, their weight, everything but their name. It looked like them, played like them, everything. Just didn't have their name on it, and they were sort of getting, if you want to use the word exploited, they were sort of getting exploited that way. You give away some tricks of the trade, Ed, in this one. And if I was a grimy reporter, I'd be a little bit upset about you, but I'm not. But you talk about the media training, which I think is so important, right? And you go into depth in terms of how to answer questions, how to even take a step further in terms of generating that relationship between reporter and target, interviewer and interviewee, which is something that I never really even thought about or considered. But that's having the interviewee, the person being interviewed, actually come and kind of extend that olive branch, so to speak. Why was that so important for you to include it?
I think it was very important because, first of all, as you know, as a reporter, as an anchor, as an interviewer, you can't get your job done if you don't have the subject, so to speak.
Big facts.
And you can't have a good storyline if the person is overwhelmed. I put that in there, Rahshaun, because when I was hosting my weekly talk show, I noticed all the time that people were just overwhelmed. They may be politicians, maybe preachers, maybe athletes, or whatever. But it's something about...
You got that old deer in the headlights?
Yeah, exactly.
So that red light goes.
It's something about, you're sitting in front of a live camera and whatever, and everybody gets nervous in the service instead of getting embarrassed and panic on the Atlantic. So I wanted to figure out how do I teach young people, young folk in particular, to know how to navigate, go back to the notion of the playbook. That's what I was telling Jalen Woods. Jalen, how did you learn to be an excellent football player? And I got him to the point where he finally said, I learned the playbook. I'm telling you that if you can learn the media playbook, you can almost do anything. And I said, Jalen, I'm not trying to train you for interviews only. I'm trying to train you for life. That if you can articulate your points, if you can, especially from a media perspective, you can do a host of things. So I just took the skill sets that it's amazing. I'm not trained as a media person. I see my good friend Lois here. Lois has her degree from SC, the real USC, not the University of Southern Compton, but University of Pennsylvania. But what I'm saying is that I wasn't trained in that capacity. It kind of grew on me. So I just jumped right into it and I took those skill sets and so my point is, how do I help them to just lower the volume? That, it's like practice. I know it's an old adage, but I do believe practice does make perfect. So if they can understand the nuances associated with it, that, hey, that interviewer, that reporter can't really do their job, and then if they throw negative things at you, you don't have to repeat it back, and your two or three, four messages, you can do your own thing. Take control of it.
We're going to get to your questions. I know some of you have some questions. If you write them down, just because I'll forget things. So go ahead, write them down. If you have some, we'll get to them in just a second. What is there about this book that you really want people to know?
One thing I really want folks to know, Rahshaun, is that it's not only for student athletes, as you mentioned earlier. Part of it was that when I've had parents who read the book and they were like, "Hey, this is good for anybody." And so I want people to be able to I want them to know that you can market yourself, you can brand yourself. You may not be a big influencer on social media or that type of thing, whatever. And I don't care what your age is, you can always effectively communicate and reach out to people. I want them to know, especially the student athletes, that there's more to life beyond sports. I want coaches and others to know that, hey, here are some tools or skill sets, as well as development officers, that you can offer your student athletes that no one's talking about. And the main takeaway that I want people to know is that we're always learning, we're always evolving. And this book really kind of answers those type of things. So if you notice that for each section, I have some key takeaways, I have some reflection points, and I want it, while they're in the moment, I want them to be able to apply these things. And then I can say, like, wow, whether I'm in middle school or, there's a lot of coaches' kids in elementary as well as middle school, how can I take these skills and use them for life? So thusly, I look at it as a playbook almost for life. I know it's focused on sports, but it's really almost setting folks up for life.
For me, the most powerful part of this book, there's a one-liner you had. What gets revealed gets healed. I'm not going to tell you what part that is. You can probably guess, but you have to read the book for that. But that spoke to me tremendously. Where can they get the book at, Ed?
So they can get the book on Amazon.com. So you can get it that way there, and you can always reach out to me at www.soundraylife.com, or you can meet Instagram, social media, Facebook, and Connect with It, at Connect with It. But Amazon is where they can get it.
What about this book signing tour? We got any more stops?
This is the very first one, so we are working on it. I'm really excited about the turnout for everyone who's here. I know folks that's watching on Facebook can't see the folks that's here, but I'm just really excited about it. So yes, I'm hoping to do more, and if there's anybody who wants to host a book signing for me, if you may have a book club, you want to have a book reading, or you need a speaker to come out, hey, you can reach out to me again at www.soundraylife.com. Let me just say something about Sam Ray for those who may not know. So Sam Ray is a tribute, it is a legacy to my late sister, Samantha, passed at 51. My brother Ray passed at 48. So it was a legacy for them. That's why I call it. Everything that I'm doing is under the auspices. I'm a certified professional life coach, and I do it under the auspices of Sound Ray Life. So it kind of helps to keep their legacy together. My sister Samantha was very focused, very tenacious in what she did. My brother Ray he knew everybody. He never met a stranger. Knew how to connect with people, and so that's really what it's all about. And then lastly, if I can say, my mother used to always tell us, and my sister Marlene is here. What was Mama's favorite quote? Nothing what?
Nothing beats failure but a try.
But a try. So my mother would always tell us that. And then my father.
It's all right.
My father was illiterate. He couldn't read or write. So it's kind of like all of those things. Moving with that. Those are the impetus, the motivation that pushed me for doing it. I'm a poor boy from Compton with a K. K-O-M-P-T-O.
The book is Building Your Brand 101, a playbook for student athletes on money, media, and mental health. We talked about this, and you got this done in an efficient manner. And so I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you. You got something good here, and the amount of time from the time people talk about things. We talk. I've been supposed to write a book since I was in college.
That was just last year.
Way here doing a book signing for me. That's all.
But you just graduated from college last year.
That part, right? But we talked about it. You had a plan, and you went to it, and you surprised me one day and said, "Oh, here's the book." I was like, "Wait, already?" So like I thought it just took so much time, and it was laborious, this, that, and the other. But this is an incredible read. Not only that, it's a quick read, which I appreciate, and you touch into a lot of things. And we got to get this in schools. We got to get this in the hands of ADs and coaches at the high school level, at the university level as well, and even professionals. This can be this is transcendent. This goes beyond just the athletic realm. So the book, once again, Building Your Brand 101, a playbook for student athletes on money, media, and mental health. Ed Robinson, thanks, man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. I'm going to say real quick, because one of the things that you said is a simple read. When I was doing, as you know, you were part of, I call it the huddle, where we had existing athletes, former athletes. We had Rahshaun from the media, Channel 5. We had several folks there, and one of the things that I take away from me was that they said, hey, this can't be an academic treatise. This can't be 300 or 400 pages there. It got to be something real simple. Athletes are not going to sit here and do that. So I'm letting everyone know, don't look for an academic treatise, but you will get some real good information.
Well, no, that's a real thing. In this 140 character or less society we live in today, I mean, it's got to be, people's attention spans are like that, And so, and you handled that extremely well in this. It's full of knowledge. Let's get to your questions. Who's got some questions?
I heard you mention it, and as I was looking at it, you referenced high school also. It seems to talk largely about college and on, but I would think this is advisable for high schoolers.
It is, Neil. Thank you. As a matter of fact, there are high schoolers that are getting, opportunities. So, for instance, I know there was some talk. I don't want to say this parenthetically, but St. John Bosco, I know they were looking at giving every kid a
whole team.
Yeah, the whole team.
The whole football team.
Yeah, the whole football team. I don't know if it was $5,000 or whatever. So there are high schoolers that are actually getting an opportunity to take advantage of it. So you are right. It is applicable for them.
California, just to kind of piggyback off that, California was one of the first states that allowed for this rule to be passed. And so there are still some states where it hasn't passed at the high school level. And so I've done games with student athletes who have transferred here from other states so that they can take advantage of this NIL deal. Jada Williams, young lady, Hooper, she's going to Arizona next year. She's a social media savant. She's got NIL deals from all over the place. Juju Watkins, she has deals with Nike. With a young lady right here from Watts, she goes to Sierra Kane, but she's got a deal with Nike and a whole bunch of other big name brands. She'll be at USC next season. And so, as part of the high school level, California is one of the states in which you can take advantage of that of NIL at the high school level. And so, this is one of the first places where it's happening, and it's happening here. So, I think one of the good things about it is by the time these young men get to the collegiate level, they would have already had an idea, what's going on. Because right now we're at the infancy of it. Anyone else?
What really gave you your inspiration to really write a book? Because I've been thinking, but I'm like,
Sure. And as I mentioned earlier, it was Jalen Woods working with him, but also I've always wanted to write a book. My mother used to write a lot. She would always write poems and just write different things, and I would just kind of read. And I think it's part of my mother's, so to speak, living through her vicariously. But I've always wanted to do something towards that end. But what really pushed me was when I was working with Jalen Woods, and then the parents were saying, "Hey, do you have something?" And I had nada. So I said, "Hey, maybe I should explore this a little bit more." But I didn't know it was going to come together like that. So that's what pushed me. Lois? Oh gosh, she used to work for the Times. I'm like, Lois. Lois, don't work me over.
Not in that room today. I'm here as a friend and Ross. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the role of the parent and guardian. Because of what's happening now, young people are being approached directly. And even though they may be 18 or quote unquote an adults, biologically, mentally, I'm not so sure. And so I think it's really important that the parents understand this world. And I wonder if you talk to parents and guardians and what kind of insight you got from them to influence you to write the book.
It's amazing, Lois. A lot of input from parents when I told them what I was doing. And then once I started talking about it and could articulate the vision more, people was like, "Hey, I need that." Matter of fact, the whole recruitment section that's in the book came from a parent, a female parent. This is not to sound in a sexist sense, but the mother was saying, "One of my children is getting recruited," and they talk about this time where they can't talk to the coach, and then there's a period where we can. And Ed, I don't understand it, so I just went on the NCAA's website and started researching, and I put together a whole aspect of that. And then when they started seeing the other subjects that was in there, they were like, "Wait a minute, I need this." So parents were very influential, if I can say, Lois, in the process of helping me to be able to look over and beyond the various things. So recruitment was a big thing, the financial aspect of it, towards the end, how to, so to speak, carry themselves. Because I do a whole section on there, even on public speaking, just some of the nuances associated with that. So parents, again, their role was very, very helpful to me, insightful, I would say. What's up, another hand?
Oh, I was just going to ask you if you have any of your books here.
Yes, I do. I do. We have books. Once we finish the session, we do have some books. Absolutely. And we'll sign them too. Yeah, we'll sign them. Any other questions? Mr. Filer.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a statement. What a fantastic book this is, man. This book, if it gets in the right hands, and I've written books, and man, just God bless you, and I hope you.
Hey, Dwayne, if you mind coming a little bit closer. Come a little closer. I know you don't mind. So Dwayne is a good friend of ours. Dwayne, come in a little bit closer. So So Dwayne, Dwayne is making his way. He's from the famous Filer family of Compton.
Okay.
Father being a former councilman, Maxie Filer, and brother Judge Kelvin Filer. So go ahead.
Okay, well, what I was going to say that in this book, I mean, it needs to be on every athlete's right next to their playbook. You learn, I don't care if you're playing football, basketball, track, you have a playbook, this one needs to be right next to it. I mean, it's just so timely and fantastic. And what a great time to come up with something like this. A section that I really like is where you're talking, I think the score, where you mentioned about mistakes. You know, today, you know, you've played a game, you're tired, maybe an interview, somebody's going to interview you, and you may say something wrong. I like where you say you got to correct it. Nowadays, you got to get on stuff right away, or cancel stuff will hurt you. So this book is just so timely, man, and I just like what you said about mistakes. Nobody's perfect, so you may screw up on something, but you got to jump on it right away. But I'm just so proud of you, man. This is a fantastic book.
And I'm here, shout out to Dwayne, who was pushing me behind the scene. Man, you need to start pushing it. And I have not done anything. This is really kind of like my first foray, so to speak, to be honest with you. And I'm going to say to anybody on Facebook Live or those here, if you have some connection points, I'm open for that. I'm open for any ideals. And I have thought about some marketing. They don't think this part I haven't thought about anything, but I don't have a lot of those access points. I'm very open if any of you have it.
It's a very, very competitive business, but like I say, man, this gets in the right place, man.
Thank you. And even on that scores section that you were talking about, if I can add this, in addition to correcting folks, but the other part I used to tell my son when he was playing at sports, he made a mistake. Yeah, you got to have a short memory. And so, because if I'm focused on Larry burnt me, he scored on me last time, and I'm still focused on that, I'm still in that moment. The same thing with life. You make a mistake in a job interview, you make a mistake on a business proposal, you make a mistake wherever you are, and you just forget about it. Okay, I live and I learn from it. Larry, hit Hannah.
Yeah, so proud of you, first of all.
Thank you, bro.
I heard you share something in a meeting several years ago at Edison.
I don't know if I remember that.
You made a statement that the largest room is room for improvement. Is there if you have the opportunity right now, as far as a KSM key statement message, what would you share to those that you have that chance to speak with in terms of letting them know, athletes and others, because you share a lot of good subjects in the book, but what would you like to share as far as your key statement or message of why they should have this book? You have that opportunity where you're able to speak worldwide right now with that microphone. What would you articulate to that audience as you're speaking?
Question, man. I think my message would be that we are the controllers of how we're perceived, how we are viewed. And so I would say that to everyone to look introspectively and to make sure you are being your best person. This book helps with those type of things. And the reason why I'm pushing it out about being your best person is I wore this thing for years, but it broke on me. Compton, I want people to know that I'm from Compton. And so my main thing is that when we read Edison, people said, are you just wearing that to be in vogue or to be cool? No, I'm wearing that because I'm proud to be from Compton. And my message would be, Larry, is that you are it's like I can't control the wind, but I can adjust my sails. So if I adjust my sails in a proper way to be effective in whatever it is that I'm trying to do, that would be my message. Just look introspectively and then look at adjusting one's sails. That is whatever it is that you're hoping to accomplish. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Cousins?
I can't wait to get started reading it. I wish I had done my homework and read it ahead of time. I would love to read what you said on mental health because it's so important. And because in the past it's been kept behind closed doors, and now it's so, open for us now to see what's going on with mental health, especially with the young people, you're hearing them say certain words more often, anxiety, stress, you know. So I can't wait to get in on that section and see what's going on in that section.
And part of what Rahshaun was saying earlier, if I can make a bridge back to that, was in the mental wellness section, the aspect of what gets revealed gets healed. And it's kind of sad to say, but even in the faith-based community, the churches, we don't like to talk about mental wellness. We don't like to talk about it in school. We don't want to talk about it on our jobs. But there are people that are struggling in the pews as well as in the chairs. How do we get this out to them? That, hey, I don't care how big you're. There are two young men who were on scholarships at UCLA. I don't know if you remember the story, Rahshaun. One was projected to go to the league. He was a big white dude. Projected to go to the National Football League. Quit. Done. I'm done. He said, mentally, I can't do it. Parents pulled him out of school, and he started seeing a therapist, started doing all of the things he needed to do, whether he'll come back or not. And the other one was a brother from San Diego. He's like, this is all I know. I got to get off of this or something's going to happen to me. So the mental wellness is really important to me as a pastor, as a human being. I run across a lot of people who deal with these things, and especially the brothers. I don't say brothers as in colloquialism, black men, but especially the men. I'm telling you, it's okay, bro. And I sit down and talk with guys bigger than I am, and we laugh, we cry, and we talk about things, and they're like, man, I feel good. So, but no one's, in my opinion, is taking the time to talk with these athletes to tell them how to do it. Any other questions? Sammy T.
Ed, now I am more than impressed with what you've done. I'm so proud of you, as is everyone else. One of the things that stands out to me, I'm not a sports person.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just going to call it, I'm going to own it. I'm going to own it. However, being in corporate America and now in the nonprofit sector as a leader, a lot of the things you're talking about applies to everybody. I mean, from having to carry that ball, you know, we use analogy in corporate America, and we use sports analogy, and whenever you're leading, we say, okay, I'm going to pass you the ball. Okay, you know, not knowing what ball I'm passing. Not knowing, but I know that I need to get something to the finish line, and I'm passing the ball to team members, but also I'm responsible for a lot of things that require media exposure, social media, way too much social media exposure. But then when we're trying to get things done, we can get it done. But your mental health, after you get past that project or after you get past whatever the hurdle is, you're actually really deficient. So could you see yourself taking this platform even further? Can you see it? I can.
Absolutely, Tammy. Yes, I can. Because as you said, there are core competencies that are expected of you in the business world. So one should be able to know how to communicate effectively, both in oral and written form. One should know how to, especially depending on what level you are, how to engage with the media. One should know the basics, rudiments of finances and budgeting and things of that nature. And how to lead and how to inspire people. So this book, it codifies all of that. So yes, I could. And again, my niche, Tammy, was these student athletes. I just hadn't thought about it, and to see the dearth or the lack of information that was there, but I can definitely see in this being parlated across the board. Even with churches, to be quite honest with you.
Thank you, Ed. One of the other things is, especially when you're moving into corporate, young kids going into corporate America or into big jobs for the first time, you can't tell them enough about investing in their 401k. I had people huddle around me when I got to Edison as a young girl, and they said, nope, this percentage of your money needs to go away. I said, no, that needs to go to rent. And they're like, no. We understand that, but you have to, they really taught us how to really be financially responsible for the long haul. So it all ties together. I love it.
Thank you, Tammy. Anyone else?
I'm just want to say, okay, I'm a big sister. I'm glad to be here, glad to be a part of the family project, and this was my first book signing event that I attended, so I'm looking forward to your second one, so to be my second one.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I'm glad to be here. Congratulations on your first book. Pastor.
Or just call me Susan Mason.
But I think this book, from what I could hear, I don't know the preface, I haven't read it yet, I don't know the beginning yet, but it looks like you're reaching out, you're to the youth who get these contracts. That's a big thing now. They get the contracts, so many millions of dollars, but they don't know how to budget and or invest it. And that's a lot in our community of black people or young black children. They go in, nobody's telling them what to do with the money and how to invest. But once they invest, you take a shaft, you take some of the magic. They've all invested their money. They're still investing their money. There's so many things you can invest in. All they have to do is research it. Whether you put $1,000 or $500. But I'm thinking that this is going to be good for the youth that are going to offer contracts. And you're hitting that ball. By you're coming out, I think it should be in high schools or even maybe junior high school. Colleges all over. So I appreciate being here, and I'm really anticipating reading the book and I'm very excited about it. So thank you so much. I'm glad I was invited.
Thank you, Christy. Because the name of the game, when you think of the brand, think about the brand. You think about Nike, the swoosh. You think about the NBA, the National Basketball Association. You see Jerry. Is it still Jerry West? Still the logo?
Yeah.
You think about McDonald's and the golden arches and so forth. It's kind of back to what Larry was saying earlier, and I kind of stumbled over a little bit, but it's kind of like, how do people perceive you? How do you want to be perceived when you're branding yourself? Because whether we know it or not, we are always advertising. We're always branding, and it depends on how people, how we carry ourselves. That old adage, what is it? It's better to be thought of a fool, but thought to be a fool than to open one's mouth into, what's the second one?
All doubt.
And to remove all doubt. So that's part of it. I know it's a little humorous, but that's part of it. That's part of the mainstay of the book, of how do we brand ourselves towards that end.
Me? I just want to say, it's amazing. Pastor, since you've come to Tabernacle, I've seen a change in myself. Because you generate so much positivity that we can all take in. And looking at Rahshaun, I cannot believe. It's a little boy. And to see him sitting here,
right out of the garden.
He's just so mature. And I know his grandmother's just proud of him and his family is. But also, the book, I have not read the book, but what you both said, it's something we're not athletes, of course. I mean, at least I'm not. But there's so much I think I can take from that book that you've given it to me that I can use in my everyday life, And I'm sure that once I get the book, as someone said, I'm going to read it immediately because I think there's so much I can take from that. And I'm just proud of both of you. You keep saying Compton, but remember, we're also in LA.
That's right. You're right.
And you know what? And a lot of people, I tell people, good people come from Compton. What you read in the newspapers, you can put that aside and think about all the good that comes out. And you exemplify that to me, and I'm pretty sure you will to the whole world one day. And Rahshaun, you keep on doing what you're doing because you are just amazing. Amazing for you two to hook up. I can see that you both have the same outlook on life, and a lot of positivity comes from both of you. And so I just want to say that, even though it might not be for your book, but of course you're going to get the book, I think, and I'm going to get two. One for the other private family, George and his family.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sister Kay. You say you're not an athlete, but I see you move around. But no, the book is transcendent. It's very applicable into so many different areas of life. You talk about how you practice visualization, right? And the great Michael Jordan, he told numerous stories about this. He talked about once he got to the game, it already happened. Because the night before, he visualized every play, every shot that he was going to make, where he was going to get the ball, the shots he was going to the spots on the floor he was going to get the ball, where he was going to shoot it from, and things of that nature. So when it actually happened, it already happened in his mind. And visualization is something that I learned. I took a class, it was a coaching class in college, and I studied that a little bit. And it can be a very powerful and effective tool, not just for athletes, but for any of us. Whether we're getting ready for a big meeting, whether we're getting ready for an opportunity to speak publicly, whatever the case may be. truth be told, last night I was okay. We're gonna be up here, and you know, and you try to you know kind of see these things before it happens. You know, just kind of the mindset you're going to be in, the space that you're going to be in. You know, all those kind of controllables, so to speak, so that when you get there, okay, this happened. I've been here before. I'm able to get through and go through this.
And it's interesting you said it because I did the same thing also. So a couple of days ago, today, just kind of get quiet by myself, close my eyes, and I visualize. I see people parking up, coming up Vermont. Literally, I see people coming up Vermont. I see people getting out of their clothes, coming out of their cars. I see myself walking around, greeting people. I see a room full of people with good energy, questioning a great session with Rahshaun. And I kind of play it out. I do that all the time. And you can do this for job interviews, you can do this for business proposals, you can do this when you're negotiating, just like athletes do. I do the same thing, you know, just visualize it. Even when I go to church, I visualize that you're going to have a good time towards that end. So it's very helpful.